I usually do short videos piece by piece, but in this video I'm going to gather a bunch of remarkable pictures that I received via a number of social media streams that I have coming. And so let's start with this birdie. This is a titanium birdie. It has some pretty decent upgrades. I would say especially what has been done with the wheels and the wheel hubs and the brakes that appear to be hydraulic brakes. And I see that the suspension also has been upgraded. I can't see the rear, but that should be an upgrade. If they did it for the front, why not do it in the rear? This is one of the older titanium frames because the wiring is entirely external. Still a very good looking bike. And here is the standard modern monocoque Birdy in flat paint, which is made even more impressive because of the aerodynamic rims by Color. It's kind of a silly name. I actually like the classic frame better. I think it's a more consistent design, but you do see a kind of a singular flow across the whole frame that makes it look pretty nice. This is the classic frame I am talking about, but the most interesting part of this frame is the crank, the rectangular crank. Clearly you're not going to be able to do a dual or triple chain wheel with this kind of approach, so it doesn't always work, but it certainly has the capacity to pull aggressively because of that squarish design. And I do like the color. It's a very nice metallic color, which apparently is the original paint. And here are the current Birdy monocoque designs. What I like here is the play with the various shades of gray, silver, black, charcoal. Very nice color harmonies and some nice pedals here. Other than that, this is really mostly stock. Everything from the paint job to the bikes themselves. This is the stock design. Still very nice, although I do see custom rims here. There's custom rim on the second bike away from the viewer. But very nice clean bikes. And here is a Brompton. This is not necessarily for everyone. It's a very neat way of attaching or guiding so many wires that the average Brompton has. The reason it's not for everyone is because I have a fancy metal nickel plated finish that I paid $500 for, so I would not do this to my frame with the metal plating job I have. But for a lot of people, if you have a cheaper paint job, then you could do it. Although I do see scratches here, so they must have used it elsewhere. So this is really not for people with a really nice paint job. I would not do it. I saved this picture because it's such a telling shot of the old Brompton, partly titanium, that I really liked. This is what is called the P-line today. You look at the extremities, the forks and the triangles, they are raw titanium exposed, and then you have some kind of a frame color for the rest of the bike. This is the way it should be done, instead of to follow the looks of the current Brompton T-line. This looks like some kind of a Brompton T-line, but it's not. It's really just a Brompton, regular Brompton bike. But the wheels are just so hot looking that they make the whole bike look really edgy. Not to mention that the frame color is gray, so it is the color of platinum. And here is a look from the other side, and you can definitely see that this is the standard steel frame. It's not a titanium frame. There is a fancy seat post upgrade, and the training wheels have been upgraded to something bigger. And there is racing pedal or something close to that. And I think even the brakes are upgraded along with the carrier attachment in the front. And this is your standard fold. It looks like any other fold. Pretty compact. This is still the same frame, but looking at the suspension has been upgraded. Apparently it is a titanium spring, so it must be very light. Any upgrade you can do to replace and upgrade that elastomer that the Brompton comes with is going to make a big difference. I see the custom brake, very nice. And a close-up of the front. I'm not sure if you could fit mud guards with these brakes on. Nice looking carrier block. Some of the blocks are really disappointing though. I don't know if this is all metal. Ideally it should be, By the way, the standard Brompton block has worked wonderful for me. I broke the screws originally. I have an old video that you can dig up somewhere. Carrying the 10-pound battery, dragged the screws out and broke them, and it took me about 6 hours of drilling to get the screw bit out. But ever since then, I used aquarium silicone, but you can also use Loctite or a similar product to really seal the screws in. And I have checked several times. I have not had a single problem since then. The reason I saved this shot is because of the rims. I think the upgraded rims really improved the look of the whole bike. I'm not crazy about the bag in the front, and that orange wheel in the rear is really not nice either. They upgraded some of the drivetrain. In fact, they upgraded all of it. So it looks pretty cool. Although green is not my favorite color. And here is a look at the currently available monocoque Birdy and the latest frame design, which may or may not become mass produced. There are rumors on the internet that it might become that. That's the one on the right side. I like the right side better because it is a return to the original tubular design that made the Birdy so remarkable and distinctive looking. This is sort of like that, but a bit more aerodynamic and a bit more rigid. It's not based on tubes. It's still a monocoque design, just more reminiscent of the traditional Birdy or the Birdy Classic. And here is a comparison of the Classic Birdy fold to the Brompton. You can see that they both fold pretty well. But you can also see that the Birdy had to be belted up to make sure it sticks. There is a screw here on the inside that sticks out and it's supposed to hold the tire, but it doesn't really do it. It's not a secure way of solving a problem. So what people do is, that's what I did when I had the Birdy, they put a belt over it, and pretty much the same is needed for the handlebar or the steering column, which is really just hanging here. If you don't move the bike around too much, that's going to work, but if you tilt it around, like if you grab it by this bar, then this thing is going to start swinging around. So the kind of security you get with the Brompton fold, you just don't get with the Birdy. What you do get is better performance overall. This is a really weird mod that I found. Apparently, the rear looks like some sort of a hub gear upgrade, but I can't really tell what it is. The triangle looks like a stock triangle, so it might not be anything unique, but wait, no. There is a disc brake, so both the triangle and the fork are obviously custom. So the rear may be even a roll-off, which I have no problem with, but this front custom fork is just really hateful. In order to introduce a front suspension, they had to raise the front, and that looks really ugly. Even though it's going to give you maybe 2 or 3 inches of travel here with this little suspension mechanism. Ideally, this is something Brompton should do, and they should put the suspension maybe here. Change the design of the steering column. But it's really ugly. Maybe it's comfortable to ride, but this is a really ugly bike. And here is that same bike with the weird fork upgrade folded. Obviously, because it's pushing the frame up, the fold is racked. And the whole point of having a Brompton is to have access to the compact fold. If I want a really cool front suspension and not so compact a fold, then I just get a Birdy instead of all this suffering. This upgrade must have cost thousands of dollars. $5,000 is my minimum guess with the hydraulic brakes. Then why not just get a Birdy? And here is an all black design that I do like. I like the shiny black, everything black. This must belong to a very tall person because you can see that the seat post has a telescopic extension. But otherwise, the Joseph Cusack rims look really good. I'm not crazy about the white imprint. It should be something more discreet, like a dark gray or medium gray at least, to not stand out. Sort of the same color that you see here, the Schwalbe. If you put this much of a print on something that's black, it's better to keep it quiet. Maybe dark gray. But the way everything is various shades of gray, I do like that. This is not a Brompton. This is just a trifold. I don't know if it's Chinese or Taiwanese. I've done a number of videos if you want to check them out on Brompton clones. And there are some interesting links and references in the discussion below those videos as well. There's a lot of upgrade on this. Obviously, the rear brake. The front, interestingly enough, is a disc brake, whereas the rear is some kind of an upgraded traditional rim brake. Interesting aspect to the color of the various little things like the chain, the screws in the crank, and the cabling. That's very interesting color combination overall. I have a version of this silver and black, but this one has the nice looking cables and the chain, so it's pretty good looking. This is the same thing folded, and you can see that even though the grips are not ergonomic, the brakes look really nice. This is some kind of an upgraded brake system, but the front connects to a disc brake, whereas the rear is just a grip brake. And I think that the chain wheel is probably carbon fiber. The weight of the whole thing is amazing. It looks like 13 pounds. 13 pounds for a whole bicycle that has some gears on it, and even a disc brake. And this is the last picture in this series. This is a Moulton setup for travel, except that I would not use skinny narrow tires like this for traveling. I would size it up to 2 inches, which may require some modifications because this frame was not designed for fatter tires. The brakes and the mudguards probably won't allow for 2 inches. That's really sad. But these are 20-inch wheels, so maybe you could get 1.5, something better than this. 1.5 you could probably get, but look at the volume of stuff you can load on this, and especially the rear rack. How can you carry this much weight and not bend the whole thing out of shape? Well, one reason is this is actually not a part of the frame. There is a screw here, so this is an attachment. But look how in the bottom it is also attached, not just at the top, but at the bottom as well. So unlike with the Brompton, where you have some very skimpy looking little wiry things coming down to the triangle, you have a more massive support. And this rear rack area also is more elaborate. It's not just 2 bars, it's a number of bars. So there's a lot more support to it. Except for the skinny tires and maybe even the bullhorn bar, which is also something I'm not too crazy about. This one is ready to roll. This is it for the current collection of images. I will do more videos like this one, continue to collect them. Make sure to check out my links below. I have some new items in the shop, including the custom-made T-bar for the Zooter scooter, which you can now order, and it's going to be trimmed to the size you want.
I'll be back.